We've got the beginning of football season tomorrow, starting out with the Dallas Cowboys going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm super hyped for football season to start. Also excited to start talking about football again. One of my favorite sports. It's what got me into fantasy sports to begin with, especially looking at analytics. It started out on Madden on the fantasy mode. I would go in as a general manager, try to make the best team. 7 or 8 year old me thought that was all there was to sports, but got me introduced to looking at analytics, taking a look at statistics, and trying to project that into the future. Even as a young kid, that's what I was into, a little bit of a nerd. Obviously, that's why I'm doing that today. I have a lot of passion for it, but football is where it's all started, so I get the most excited about it. And in this first game of the year, we have one of the best matchups of the entire weekend, frankly. Again, the Dallas offense, one of the best up-and-coming offenses in the NFL. Really excited to have Dak Prescott back out there, going against the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, Tom Brady beating Father Time, going out there, being an absolute stud for all these years. So in general, very exciting matchup, and one that I expect to be very high scoring as well. The Cowboys defense has been in decline for quite some time now, so I don't think Tom Brady's going to have any trouble taking that apart. But on the other side of the ball, perhaps it's a little bit more intriguing. You do have one of the best defenses in the entire NFL, specifically one of the best front sevens for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the front five, O-line for the Dallas Cowboys is one of the best in the NFL as well. So they should be able to take care of that, should be able to give Dak Prescott enough time to throw the ball downfield. So I expect a lot of points to be put up. I expect it to be a back and forth, high scoring game as well. And we saw last year before Dak's injury, Dallas was one of the most productive offenses in the NFL. Averaged over 500 yards passing per game. They didn't win many games at the beginning of that year, but on offense, they were great. Tampa Bay, obviously very productive, ended up winning the Super Bowl, so can't go wrong with either side. So we're going to hop into the picks here. What we're going to do is we're going to cover my top 6 picks for each team. So we're going to start with the Cowboys and then go into the Buccaneers. And then we're going to wrap it up with my top 6 value plays as well as my top 6 options at captain. So we're going to talk some salary relief with those value plays as well as some of the guys I expect to have the biggest games with those captain picks. The last thing I want to mention before we hop into these picks is the live stream I'm doing tonight at 7 p.m. We're going to be doing some best ball live drafts, going to be going over some strategy talk as well, live Q&A, all that kind of fun stuff. So make sure to stop by again at 7 p.m. We're going to be having a good time, just making some drafts, drinking some beer, just having some fun, overall just hanging out. So make sure to stop by if you're doing some drafts or stop by just to, get some strategy talking and get ready for the 2021 season. So without further delay, let's hop into the picks. First, again, with my favorite 6 guys to target on the Cowboys. So starting off with the Dallas Cowboys, you can see my top pick is obviously Dak Prescott. I do expect them to employ a pass-first offense against the Tampa Bay defense. Again, one of the best front sevens in all of the sport, and a very young secondary. They really showed out in the playoffs last year, stepped it up, so I don't think they're slouched by any means, but if there is a weakness on Tampa Bay, it is with their cornerbacks and safety, so I expect them to try and exploit that, especially in this first game out. I don't think a lot of the industry agrees with me, though. Obviously, Dak Prescott coming off the injury, a lot of people expect them to rely on Ezekiel Elliott, but that's just not going to be something they're going to be able to do. Obviously, going against one of the best run-stopping defenses in the NFL, that game plan is definitely going to trump the injury at Prescott. Everything looks good for Prescott as well. We haven't seen him in the preseason, but from all reports from camp, he's taken full reps at practice. He's taking hits at practice, which should be really good news for anyone that likes the Dallas Cowboys. So I expect people like CeeDee Lamb, you can see I have him at number 2 to have very good games. Somebody who's very good after the catch, somebody who had a good rapport with Dak Prescott in the first 4 games of the year, which for a rookie, it's really good to see. Obviously, expect that to grow with even more practice time and rapport with Prescott. I also expect Amari Cooper to have a pretty good game. You can see I have him just ranked below Ezekiel Elliott. Obviously, Elliott is still going to have a huge part in this offense, one of the best running backs in the NFL. But I just feel against Tampa Bay, he's not necessarily a priority, especially at $9,600. I'm much more likely to go with a Dallas Cowboys receiving stack, something like Prescott, Lamb, and Cooper in the same lineup. Obviously, if you need to save some salary, you can go down from Cooper to Jarwin or Gallup, something like that. I'm starting most of my lineups that way. Obviously, really like Dak, really like those 2 receivers there. And if I have to take someone down low like Gallup in the slot or Blake Jarwin, I don't hate it either. I'm expecting somewhere, and they're somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 targets for both Lamb and Cooper. I think Lamb's going to be more productive with those targets. Had a higher receiving yards per catch last year, also a higher yards after catch rate. So definitely like Lamb's upside there. Obviously a little bit more athletic and fast than somebody like Amari Cooper, but I do expect Cooper to maybe get 10 to 12 targets. Somebody who is a little bit more reliable, runs those shorter routes, gets open a little bit quicker. And obviously Dak Prescott coming off this injury is going to be looking to get the ball out quickly. So Cooper could be a good sleeper pick on that Dallas Cowboys offense. Blake Jarwin, I definitely prefer over someone like Dalton Schultz. We've seen Jarwin be the preferred target so far in the preseason. Again, it's just preseason, so we don't want to read into it too much. Now getting to the Tampa Bay side of things, I think you're going to see a little bit more consistent offense from Tampa Bay. Again, we saw a very good prototype from them in the playoffs, but they played like that from week 6 on last year. They started out the first 6 games with a little bit more of a running first offense, gave a ton of carries to Ronald Jones Jr., also even sprinkled in Fournette more than we saw a little bit down the stretch, but they really gained their identity towards the beginning part of the season, ended up riding that to a championship, obviously, and that identity is to throw the ball an absolute shit ton with Tom Brady. I'm talking 50 to 60 passes per game, which for somebody that old, honestly, it's impressive, right? For him to hold up, be able to throw that many passes game after game was impressive. I think there were a lot of people had doubts about that last year. Didn't expect him to go out and play with that kind of volume, but if he's going to put out that kind of volume, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks all year. He's somebody who could be a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year if he stays healthy. So as a result, all 3 receivers for Tampa Bay are likely to have huge games this season. It's going to be making sure you pick the right 2 per game because not all 3 are going to get enough targets to do so. But my preferred targets for week 1, at number 2, we do have Antonio Brown. He's $5,600. That's the main thing I like about Antonio Brown. Obviously going to be starting at the slot for the Buccaneers. Also coming in by far cheaper than somebody like Chris Godwin or Mike Evans. If I am going to pay up for one of the receivers on Tampa Bay, it is going to be for Mike Evans though. Even though he costs $9,200, is a little bit steep right there. He's somebody who has monster games, has had monster games for quite a while down in Tampa Bay. Doesn't matter if it's Tom Brady throwing to him, it could be Jameis Winston, hell, it could even be Blaine Gabbert. He was able to put up some pretty good games. So definitely like Mike Evans. He has a big play potential on every single snap he's out there. So don't hate going to him, potentially even in the captain slot, but we'll get to that here at the end of the video. At number 3, we can see there's Rob Gronkowski there. A lot of that has to do with the price point, only $5,400. He is only $200 cheaper than Antonio Brown, so I expect Brown to come in as chalk this weekend. Gronkowski be a little bit more of a leverage play. So if you're trying to take that angle, try to take a little bit more of a unique approach. I don't hate paying down to Rob Gronkowski there. You can see at number 5, we have Ronald Jones II. Ronald Jones, obviously not a great play. He kind of had his targets and his rushing ability falter down the stretch, started to give way to Leonard Fournette, especially in the playoffs. But Ronald Jones Jr. was hurt, somebody who, again, was hampered by that hamstring injury, wasn't getting as many targets as he was used to, but at the beginning of 2020 was the workhorse back. So if you're trying to take a unique approach, not many people are going to pay $5,000 for Ronald Jones, but we saw him have some monster games, a couple 20-plus point games, even a 30-plus point game here in 2020. So the potential is definitely there. And if I'm going to take a receiver, a little bit more of a unique approach, Chris Godwin, he's not my favorite target. He's still coming in right around 20% ownership in my modeling, but again, Tom Brady's going to throw the ball a crap ton. Chris Godwin had some monster games there in 2020. I don't think he's going to necessarily be the preferred target as he is dealing with an injury currently. Antonio Brown and Mike Evans are healthy. But if I am going to make another lineup, if I need to take a different approach, don't want to duplicate one of my prior lineups or something like that, I'm okay going to Chris Godwin. And now let's talk about some of the value picks. These are going to be guys priced $4,500 and below that can help you guys save some salary and maybe spend up for one of the bigger captains for your showdown lineups. You can see at number 1, we have Tony Pollard, the backup for Ezekiel Elliott. Again, I do expect the Cowboys to take a little bit more of a pass-heavy approach, but Tony Pollard is somebody who's a lot better out of the backfield catching the ball than Ezekiel Elliott. Has experience as a receiver in college. Pollard's also a lot more explosive and fast, somebody who plays a lot of third downs for the Cowboys offense. offense. So I do expect him to have a little bit of a role despite the scoreboard. They could be down 30 points. He's obviously going to see some time, but even if they're in a competitive game, Tony Pollard saw plenty of action there in 2020, and I expect that to continue this week as well. In number 2, we have Scotty Miller. So Chris Godwin is dealing with the injury. Again, this came up just yesterday, so there isn't a lot of clarity on the situation. If he ends up sitting, Scotty Miller is going to be by far the best value play on the slate, but I have him at number 2 even if Chris Godwin plays. Godwin, if he plays through that injury, is still going to be a little bit hampered. It's not going to play every single snap, so Miller's going to get a lot more of the share if he is active, but if he's not active, again, he's pretty much a lock and load smash play at only $1,600. He's likely to see 6 or 7 targets in the game, likely put up 4 or 5 catches for 50 or 60 yards. If he sprinkles in a touchdown, he's by far an optimal play, but again, even if he doesn't at that price tag, not only does he open up tons of options up top, he's also going to give you some relatively consistent production out of the slot. So like Scotty Miller, we saw him produce in games last year where we had one of those big 3 out. And I definitely like him here in week 1 as well. You can see at number 3, we have O.J. Howard, somebody who's going to play a lot in 2 tight end sets. We saw a lot of that from Tampa Bay in the preseason. Again, we don't want to look into that too much. It is just the preseason. But we've seen Tom Brady have tons of success in the past with 2 tight end sets, most notably with Rob Gronkowski and the murderer there, obviously. But O.J. Howard, a great athletic specimen, somebody who can stretch the field as well. So obviously Rob Gronkowski, more of a short threat at this point, doesn't really have that explosive athletic ability that we were used to seeing, but perhaps O.J. Howard fills that role. And if he does, Howard could have some monster games here in 2021, even as the backup to Rob Gronkowski. At number 4, we have Cedric Wilson, only $1,200. He is the number 4 receiver for the Cowboys, but even in that role, we saw him have a few productive games in 2020. A lot of that was when one of the big 3 were down between Gallup, Cooper, and Lamb, but again, he's a big play threat, somebody who's probably the fastest player on the field on either team. They could put out anyone out there, he would beat them in a race, so you like playing guys like that in Showdown just in case they have, a big kickoff return, a big screen pass for a touchdown or something like that. That's why he comes in at number 4. Obviously not very consistent. It's going to be very hard to tell when he's going to have one of those games. But in Showdown, when you're looking to get unique, especially if you're playing in a Millie Maker or something like that, I don't hate him in that format. And at 5 or 6, we're not going to talk about this too much, but we have the 2 kickers. I hate playing them in DFS, but there is an edge to playing kickers in Showdown. A lot of people don't like playing them. Again, just like me, they're not exciting. They're not going to put up 20 or 30 fantasy points. But in this high-scoring affair where I expect the total to reach 60, maybe even 65 points, there's going to be plenty of extra points, plenty of field goals on the board as well. If I'm going to take one over the other, it's definitely going to be the Cowboys side. Not only do you get a $400 price discount, Greg Zuerlein's also the much longer kicker, somebody who's capable of making 60, 50-yard field goals with ease, and that gets you a lot of fantasy points. So definitely like Zuerlein over Suckup, but if you need to put one of them in your lineup, you can go ahead and do so. Go ahead and put this in here now too. The 2 defenses in this matchup I don't like at all. Again, I expect this to be a relatively high scoring affair. The only way I see one of them being optimal or really a play on the slate is if there's a defensive touchdown, a return touchdown, or that kind of thing. And that happens about a fourth of games in the NFL. So I'm going to take the other side, the other 75%, be fading both defenses, especially when I consider the total to be as high as it is. And now getting to the captain picks. Obviously, if you're new to Showdown, this is the section where guys cost 1.5 times as much, so you get some egregious price tags here. But you also score 1.5 more points, so you're really looking for guys that are going to have the best play on the slate, the most optimal play on the slate. You can see at number 1, I expect that to be CeeDee Lamb. Again, that Dallas offense is going to be extremely pass-heavy. CeeDee Lamb was by far the most productive receiver per target last year. And at $12,300, you're still able to make a respectable lineup with the rest of your slots. You still play both quarterbacks if you play CeeDee Lamb. If you end up taking somebody like I have Dak at number 2 at captain, at $15,600, you're starting to have a lot more trouble fitting in Tom Brady at that point. Obviously, playing both of them, you'd be looking at almost $27,000 in terms of salary. And making a competitive lineup with just $23,000 left and 4 slots isn't very easy. So I do like Lamb the most at the captain slot. I don't think you can go wrong with Prescott or Brady. You can see I have them at 2 and 4 respectively. I like Prescott more than Brady in this instance just because of the price decrease. Also because I expect Prescott to be playing from behind. Again, I expect the Buccaneers to have a very good offense. I expect the Dallas offense to have to play from behind. I think it's a coin flip when it really comes down to the game, who ends up winning. But I do expect Dallas to be behind early, so I don't hate them in the game script here at all. At number 3, we have Antonio Brown. I like his price tag the most. It's only $8,400 at the captain slot. If you play Antonio Brown at captain, you can essentially play whoever the heck you want with the other 5 slots. You can play both quarterbacks. You can play another stud receiver for Dak Prescott, somebody like CeeDee Lamb. You could even play Ezekiel Elliott, which I think there's a lot of value in that. Obviously, Elliott's a huge part of their offense. I don't expect it to be so much so the case against the Buccaneers, but I think Antonio Brown's a very intriguing option, especially considering the price tag. And at number 6, we have Mike Evans, a huge boom or bust player, somebody who puts up 30, even 40-point fantasy games. And if you're getting 1.5 times the points, he could put up an absolutely nuclear performance. The issue, the reason why I don't like him as much as Antonio Brown, is the price tag. He's $13,800 at the captain slot, which isn't great. That's well higher than CeeDee Lamb. Heck, that's even approaching somebody like Ezekiel Elliott or potentially even Dak Prescott. I definitely like going to the quarterbacks a little bit more than somebody like Mike Evans. But if I'm looking for a unique lineup, I don't expect many people to go to Mike Evans at captain because of the price tag. Maybe that's the angle you could take there. That's all for the showdown picks, guys. Let me know in the comments who your favorite captain play on the entire slate is. Love to get some debate down here in the comments. Personally, you can see, obviously, I like CeeDee Lamb the most. Close number 2, Prescott. Number 3 would be Antonio Brown. But let me know who you're playing at captain. Would love, again, to talk about it. As always, I really appreciate the viewership a ton. If you guys could leave a like, it'd really help me out with growing the channel. And again, that would show me that I'm making the right content, that you guys want to see more content like this, showdown content for the NFL. So go ahead and do that if you haven't already. And make sure to subscribe as well. Make sure that you guys can see all my content if you guys do so. There's also a little notification bell that you can hit that'll notify you every single time I upload. That's the best way to make sure you don't miss any content. So if you haven't done all that already, make sure to do so. Remember, I do have a live stream tonight at 7 p.m. We're going to be going over some best ball strategy, drafting 3 to 4 fantasy drafts on Draftkings. So make sure to stop by. We're going to do any Q&A from the chat as well, talk a lot of strategy. So make sure to stop by. I'm looking forward to it. And until then, I'll see you.